We often think loneliness begins when there are no people left around us. But it doesn't always begin there. It doesn't appear all at once. It begins almost unnoticed. Perhaps when you were a little girl, you learned that it was better not to bother anyone, that it was easier to smile than to explain why you were sad, that showing your feelings made other people uncomfortable, that crying was an overreaction, that your emotions took up too much space. So you began to keep things inside. First, a sadness, then a fear, then the words you never found the courage to say. As the years passed, you stopped telling certain stories, then you stopped sharing certain feelings. Eventually, almost all of them. And one day, you realized that almost no one truly knew who you were anymore. Not because people stopped loving you, but because a long time ago, you stopped letting them see the real you. Without even noticing, that little girl grew up, and so did the ways she learned to protect herself. You started thinking twice before opening up. You read a message and replied hours later. You wanted to call someone, but decided not to. You canceled an invitation. You said you were busy. You became used to handling everything on your own, little by little. You stopped reaching out to certain people. Eventually, they stopped reaching out to you too. There were days when you wanted someone to know what was happening inside you, but you no longer knew where to begin, until one day, you couldn't even remember the last time someone truly knew the real you. And without realizing it, loneliness stopped feeling temporary. It began to feel like part of who you were. Discovery. Then one day, you started telling yourself that you didn't need anyone, that you were better off alone, that life was easier that way, quieter, safer. But deep inside, something kept whispering. They won't understand me. I'd rather not explain. It's too exhausting. I don't want to be a burden. So you stayed silent again. You stopped talking about what you felt. You stopped asking for help. You stopped expecting too much from anyone, because hoping can hurt too. Little by little, what began as a way to protect yourself started to feel like your personality. You told yourself, I've always been a private person. I've never liked talking about my feelings. I just prefer being alone. But maybe that wasn't the whole truth. Maybe the woman who now keeps her distance is still the little girl who once learned it was safer to hide a part of herself than to risk feeling unseen again. Loneliness didn't change who you were. It simply convinced you to hide parts of yourself for so long that one day you began to believe that was your true identity. And that is one of the hardest silences to recognize. Perhaps for a long time, you believed something was wrong with you, that you were too sensitive, too quiet, too complicated. But maybe it was never about that. Maybe you had simply spent too many years protecting the part of yourself that once believed it had to stay hidden. Protecting yourself is not the same as truly living. There is a difference between choosing solitude and settling for loneliness because you no longer believe it's safe to be seen. No one can feel deeply connected while believing they must hide who they are in order to be accepted. If part of this story feels like your own, I don't want to ask you to change overnight. Emotional loneliness didn't appear in a single day. It won't disappear in one either, but it can begin to change. Sometimes, the first step isn't finding more people, it's stopping the habit of leaving yourself behind. Take a moment to listen to the feelings you've been trying to silence for so long. Ask yourself, when was the last time I felt safe enough to show someone how I was really feeling? And if you don't have an answer yet, that's okay. At Signs of Calm, we're not here to offer quick answers. We're here to offer a space where you can begin to understand what you've been carrying for so long. Because when an emotion no longer has to stay hidden, the person carrying it can begin to change too. And no one should have to walk a path like this, completely alone. Perhaps emotional loneliness never arrived all at once. Perhaps it grew quietly every time it felt safer to hide than to be seen. But just as that path was walked, one small step at a time, another path can begin the same way. One where you no longer have to hide parts of yourself, just to feel that you belong. Because sometimes, the first place we need to feel accompanied again is within ourselves. And perhaps finding your way back to yourself is also the beginning of finding your way back to others. Thank you for being here. If this message resonated with you, join us at Signs of Calm, your space to heal your body, mind, and energy.